Tired of bloating, fatigue and sluggish digestion? Meet your gut's new best friend, NutriHealth 365's microbiome supplement. Restore balance, boost immunity, and feel amazing from the inside out. Smart delayed release capsules, real results. Gut health just got personal.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's episode of Trending. Today, we're going to be talking about Palestine Action. We're going to be talking about Donald Trump wanting to release the Epstein Files, and we're also going to be talking about the UK's new asylum policy. Good morning and welcome to today's episode of Trending. As always, brought to you in association with NutriHealth 365. The link is in the description below. First story, we're in the UK. Palestine Action Iran media story planted by Israel-linked PR firm. I'm shocked, I tell you. The claim that Iran may have funded Palestine Action was planted in the British press by a PR firm working for an Israeli weapons company, according to a report. The Times reported in June that the Home Office had launched an investigation amid concerns that Iran's regime was making donations to the group via proxies. The story, which Palestine Action described as baseless, was later picked up by the Daily Mail. Georgia Pickering, the managing director of PR company CMS Strategic, was heard claiming credit for getting the story into the papers, Private Eye magazine reported last week, citing a trusted witness. CMS Strategic, which works for Elbit Systems, which is a massive Israeli manufacturer of weapons, told the magazine it was categorically untrue that the firm was involved in the story. Well, obviously, they're not going to admit it, obviously, to the media, are they? That would be foolish. The Times story in June came as Home Secretary was rallying support for the prescription of Palestine Action as a terrorist organization. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, sod it, it's only Palestine Action. Why are you so bothered about it? Well, many reasons. One being the fact that they can so easily prescribe an organization as a terrorist organization ain't going to stop there. Plenty of other organizations that are already formed or are yet to be formed to fight back against any kind of government tyranny will find themselves being designated as terrorists, I would imagine, because that's a nice and easy way to shut them down. The fabricated story came out days before Parliament voted to prescribe Palestine Action, Huda Amori, the group's co-founder, wrote on X. When Private Eye approached the Home Office for comment at the time, so this is back in June, just before they designated them a terrorist organization, which means anyone supporting them, either physically as in attending events or protesting, or basically just openly saying, I support Palestine Action, just did it, can face up to 14 years imprisonment. And obviously we've seen lots of footage of people being arrested for supporting Palestine Action. One of them was arrested for wearing a T-shirt that when they later inspected it said, I support Palestine Action. Got to read, mate. Got to read the small print. When Private Eye approached the Home Office for comment at the time, a spokesman said they did not recognize the claims about funding from Iran. Now, here we go. So, Private Eye has gone to the Home Office and said, you're making claims that Palestine Action is being funded by Iran, which is seen obviously as an enemy by the UK at the moment. A country that's supposedly funding terrorism in Yemen, in Lebanon with Hezbollah, whatever, right? So that's what the British government sees them as. So therefore, the Home Office saying that Palestine Action, which is just a protest group against the genocide in Gaza, by saying they're funded by Iran, that is going to push forward any support for prescribing them as a terrorist organization, obviously. Because in their mind, they're being funded by the funders of terrorism, right? Okay. So the Home Office don't recognize the claims. Yet those claims are the ones that were used to get MPs to vote for Palestine Action to be designated as a terrorist organization. So that doesn't really make much sense. I'm confused by that. Now, here's Home Secretary Yvette Cooper in June at the same time. So obviously she's Home Secretary. She's the big boss woman when it comes to the Home Office. Bear in mind, the Home Office are saying, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have any idea that there's any links to Iran. Okay, so here's Yvette Cooper. Officials are understood to be investigating its source of donations amid concerns that the Iranian regime, via proxies, is funding the group's activities. Why are you always lying? That's what they say, innit? What is the point? So the Home Office is saying, nah, we don't know anything about it. Yet the head of the Home Office is going, yeah, they're investigating it. Well, they can't both be true, can they? So which one is it? Elbit arms factories have been repeatedly targeted by Palestine Action in raids that have caused millions of pounds worth of damage over the years. And people are more outraged by that, which, you know, is a bit of a sad sign of the times, really. The fact that people protesting and damaging arms manufacturers and arms factories and halting by, you know, shutting them down, which they've done many times, shutting down the manufacture of weapons, that annoys people and offends people more than those weapons being dropped on innocent men, women and children on the daily. Is that where we are as a society? I think it is. And a huge example of that was when Palestine Action, which was just before this Iran link that they don't know about, but the Home Secretary says they're investigating, came out and obviously forced MPs to prescribe them as a terrorist organisation. Just before that, they'd broken into an RAF base, Palestine Action. I got loads of questions about that. The fact that you're allowed to break into a RAF base. But they broke into an RAF base and they spray painted a couple of aeroplanes. Okay. I'm sure that's annoying. Bit of white spirit, mate. It'll come out. It's fine. And actually, the joke of it is, because there was a huge furore about it. Oh my goodness me, they're attacking our military and they're attacking our defense systems and this is terrorism. RAF doesn't even own those planes. They're owned by a hedge fund. And if you look at that hedge fund in terms of the small print with the contract, they can lease them out to another country. Imagine that. It's not even the RAF's aeroplane. Literally owned by a hedge fund, and that hedge fund can at any point go, oh, they're not your planes anymore. Sorry, yeah, France has got them now. So that in itself is madness. And like I say, I've got lots of questions, because if Palestine Action, if just regular folks who are funded by Iran but aren't funded by Iran can break into an RAF base and get face to face with an aircraft, so can the Russians, can't they? We're supposed to be terrified of them. And so can the Iranians. We're supposed to be terrified of them as well, apparently. And so can anyone. And they would do more, in theory, than spray paint the aeroplane. So I've got more of a question about, well, were they allowed to do that? Were Palestine Action allowed into an RAF base to do this so that it could be used against them and would create uproar within the population to support them being prescribed as a terrorist organisation? And another way they got around it as well was by basically putting the vote to MPs, because it's all a scam, putting a vote to MPs alongside two other supposedly extreme far-right organisations, and MPs were only allowed to vote on all three. They couldn't vote on the individual. They couldn't go, yeah, no, those two far-right ones, yeah, I support them being designated, but this Palestine Action, essentially, they just spray-painted an aeroplane, mate. They weren't allowed to do that. They had to vote on all three as a block. So they did. So, well, yeah, go on then. And there were a lot of MPs that actually spoke out and said that they felt kind of uneasy with it, but, you know, it was obviously done that way intentionally. Now, the UK was always going to designate Palestine Action as a terrorist organisation in a bid to shut them down, because they're actually doing stuff. Now, whether you support it or not, you know, you've got hundreds and hundreds of thousands, probably millions to be fair, over the last 2 years, protesting on the streets of London and various cities across the UK against the genocide in Gaza. And nothing's happening. Like, the government's still carrying on doing it. They're playing a bit of lip service. Yeah, we'll recognise a Palestinian state. Yeah, what, the one you've supported the destruction of? Yeah, that one. So they're saying stuff, but nothing's changing. The UK government is still providing arms to Israel. It's still providing military intelligence with spy planes out of Cyprus flying over Gaza and in real time providing that information to the Israelis to go and blow up a hospital or a school or a refugee camp or whatever else Hamas are apparently dressed as that day. So actually the protests aren't doing much in that sense. So you've got an organisation like Palestine Action, which is shutting down arms manufacturers, weapons factories. Now, good. I don't support people being blown to pieces, kids having their limbs blown off. So the fact that people are going and shutting down an arms factory, good. In the same way that when people shut down vaccine centres that were being used to poison kids, good. The joke being that a lot of people that shut down those vaccine centres and took that positive action to do it will be vilifying the living daylights out of Palestine Action for shutting down an arms factory. It's weird, isn't it? Not happy with a jab in the arm, but happy for arms to be blown off. It's a weird world, mate. It's a weird world. The reason why the UK government was going to go along with this is because we have an occupied government in the United Kingdom. Just like you do in America if you're watching in the United States. It's a bit more obvious in the US because AIPAC are just like they're a bit braggy, and your president is openly, I'm the most pro-Israel president in history, and gives them everything they want. So it's more obvious in the US, but it is the same here. Now, the Tories are massively owned by Israel. I think pretty much every single Tory is a member of the Conservative Friends of Israel. That's just sort of that you get that badge for free when you get elected. Reform, although they've only got 3 MPs, obviously because Rupert Lowe's left, but all 4 of those original Reform MPs are all vocally pro-Israel, and Richard Tice obviously was off licking the wall not long ago. So they've got them in the bag. Now, within Labour, there's a few Labour MPs that are supportive of Palestine and are not supportive of Israel's treatment of Palestinians for the last 80 years. Very few of them are in the front bench because obviously Starmer elevates those that are in the Labour Friends of Israel. Let's have it right. And if you look at that front bench, trying to work out now the exact percentage, but it's a very high percentage of those MPs that are all friends of Israel, Labour Friends of Israel, and accept donations and free, all expenses paid propaganda trips to Israel. So they occupy all parties in the UK, the 3 main ones for sure. Now people will go, well, Starmer's he's pro-Palestine, he's anti-Semitic and all that sort of stuff. I've heard that. Well, what is he anti-Semitic? Is he what with his Jewish wife and kids? Okay. This is also a man that, whilst he said he recognises Palestine, which is what got a lot of furore towards him, horses bolted a bit though, isn't it? It's all well and good saying, yeah, I support the establishment of a Palestinian state, whilst at the same time you've actively been destroying what's left of it. So it's just words then, isn't it? It doesn't really mean anything. Action is what matters, which is why they want to shut down Palestine Action, obviously. Because actions actually make a difference. So, whilst he says, I recognise a Palestinian state, whatever, he's also been there, sat, as a former human rights lawyer, therefore he would know this, saying that Israel has a justification to turn off electricity and water to the civilian population in Gaza, which he knows is a war crime. But he can sit there on national television and go, yeah, of course they've got a right to collectively punish 2 million people. Nearly half of which are under the age of 16. Of course they have. Well, yeah, because you know what happens to you if you don't say that. Which is why he looks so flaming, terrified all the time. Have you looked at Starmer? Like, genuinely, he's terrified. Even when he stands there and tries to be alpha when he's announcing digital ID and all that stuff, you can feel his backside twitching. He's terrified, the guy. He's like a rabbit in headlights. Now, the same goes when I'm talking about words and actions or whatever. The same goes for the United States in terms of this Gaza peace plan. Obviously, you've had all the bobbleheads coming out and saying, this is an amazing thing. It's going to be the Trump peace plan, blah, blah, blah. And the fact that supporters of Palestine and Palestinians have gone, mate, and are not happy with it, obviously, because it's blatant what they're doing. And it's not going to be in the best interest of the Palestinians, far, far from it. Then those people get, not happy with anything. It's almost like you just hate Jews. It's like, nah, we just know it's nonsense. And so while they're voting for this peace plan to go through at the moment, I was reading a story this morning, actually, where 53% of the land of Gaza, so bearing in mind the West Bank's getting swallowed up by settlements left, right, and centre anyway, but 53% of Gaza is under Israeli occupation at the moment. Okay. Now, this is a coincidence. The most fertile land in Gaza happens to be within that 53% that's occupied by Israel. Again, like I say, it's coincidence. Now, in terms of the reconstruction of Gaza, which is going to be paid for almost certainly by the American taxpayer, America is going to be reconstructing, wait for it, around about 53% of Gaza in the initial reconstruction. Now, ladies and gentlemen at home, what 53% do you think is going to be reconstructed? Do you think it's going to be the 53% that's occupied by Israel? Do you reckon? Yeah, I think you might be right. Now, just finally, because I saw this again yesterday and it did make me chuckle, if you don't believe our governments are occupied, particularly the US, like I say, but they're more obvious with it, they're more braggy. Here is outgoing New York Mayor Eric Adams. Now, bear in mind, we've had all this furore about this Muslim mayor of New York being elected. Now, he's not going to serve New Yorkers. He's just going to serve the jihadists that he supports. He eats food with his hands. Now, I've got no skin in the game for that guy. He wouldn't be there if he wasn't a douchebag. I'm well aware of that, right? But the selective outrage makes me laugh. So this guy coming in, he's Muslim. So he's going to put Muslims first. He's going to be working on behalf of Iran or whatever to destroy New York City. And he eats with his hands. I have to keep getting that in there. Don't forget he eats with his hands. Okay. So bearing that in mind, right, this is outgoing New York Mayor Eric Adams. Enjoy this.
My male team here in Israel, and as I finish, I wanted to come back here to Israel and let you know that I serve you as the mayor, but I want to continue to have the title that's more important to me than anything. I'm your brother. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I thought he was supposed to be representing New Yorkers. It's weird, isn't it? It is weird, isn't it? So you get elected to be mayor of New York City, New Amsterdam, a massive city, amazing place, probably the most famous city on the planet, in America, the heartbeat of America, New York City, man. New York, Frank Sinatra, right. So when you get ousted, which is that, you can't whinge, mate, it's democracy. It's land of the free, remember? Keep telling us. So you get ousted, so off you go. So where'd you go? Who do you talk to when you want to say, you just want to let people know that you served them? Did you go to Central Park? Put a stage up in Central Park? Did you go to Madison Square Garden? Invite everyone in for free. World's most famous arena. And just stand there on stage and say, look, New York, I represented you. No, you get on a plane to Israel, on the other side of the world, and you stand there, having just licked the wall probably, and say, I served you. That's not your job. Your job's to serve New Yorkers. It's weird, isn't it? Now, you can be watching this as someone who's massively pro-Israel, but you have to admit, that is weird, isn't it? Could you imagine that with any other nation? Could you imagine that when the new mayor, is it Mandani? When he gets ousted, as he will, obviously, could you imagine if he went out, the first thing he did, he flew out to Iran Or he flew out to Saudi Arabia or Pakistan or Iraq or wherever and went, I served you. I served you as mayor for New York. Your head would explode. You'd literally be going mad. It's weird, isn't it? But that's the world we live in. And if you say that your governments are occupied by a foreign nation, well, actually, I was going to say you get called all names. You can say that your country is occupied by a foreign nation. That's fine. That's not a problem. You just can't say that nation. So I could quite easily sit here and say, yeah, you know, the Tory party taking Russian money and lobbyists. So, yeah, our government's occupied by Russia. And no one would be bothered. No one would call me names. No one would call me a bigot. They just go, oh, maybe, or no, he's wrong. But that would be the end of it. You mentioned that one. All kinds of trouble. Anyway, right, moving on. Trump, Epstein Files. Mate, okay. So that's the end of the, the social media element of this morning's trending. You can carry on watching for free on iconic.com. So if you click the link in the description below, you can head straight there and carry on watching.